Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. The idea for this video came from a suggestion in the comments, so thanks for that suggestion. I do read all of them. At the time I'm recording this, Jesse Chavez is 40 years old and he's currently a free agent, so his career might be over. His career, for the most part, has never been that notable. He was drafted in a round so late it doesn't exist anymore. He was never an all-star, and he only had one season above 2 WAR. In fact, he's only put up 6.3 WAR in his entire 1,000-plus inning career. He won one World Series title as a reliever for the Braves in 2021, but he wasn't even one of the top few options out of the bullpen. But there is one aspect in which Jesse Chavez stands out. He's been traded 10 times, the most of any MLB player. We're going to look at each of those 10 trades, how he did on his new team, and what the trading team got back for him. Before Jesse Chavez even made his MLB debut, he was traded. At age 22, he had just been called up to AAA. After one appearance there for the Rangers, they flipped him to the Pittsburgh Pirates for pitcher Kip Wells. Wells made 2 starts for the Rangers. He went 1-0 in 8 innings with an 85 ERA+, a 2.25 whip, and minus .1 WAR. In that second start, Wells sprained his foot and he missed the rest of the season. And after the season, he left as a free agent. Chavez spent the rest of 2006 and all of 2007 on the minors, and then he got called up in August of 2008. And he spent the rest of the season and all of 2009 in the Pirates bullpen. And he wasn't really that good. He made 88 appearances with a 1-5 record, a 94 ERA+, a FIP near 5, a WHIP near 1.5, and minus .2 WAR. And that brings us to the end of 2009, and Chavez was traded again. In November of 2009, the Pirates sent Chavez to Tampa Bay for infielder Akinori Iwamura. Iwamura had been about league average in his 3 years for the Rays, but fell off hard at age 31 with the 2010 Pirates. In 54 games, he slashed 182, 292, 267 for 54 OPS+, and minus 1.6 WAR. And in September he was released. And Chavez didn't even make it to the field for the Rays. They flipped him a month later. In December of 2009, Chavez was traded to the Braves for relief pitcher Rafael Soriano. Soriano was elite in his lone season with the Rays. In his 64 appearances, he pitched to a 2.26 ERA+, a .8 whip, and he led the AL with 45 saves. He made the All-Star game, and he got votes for both Cy Young and MVP. He then left as a free agent after the season. But the Rays gave him a qualifying offer, meaning they got compensation picks when he left. Those were in the first round of 2011. They were picks 31 and 38. So with pick 31, they drafted outfielder Mikey Matuk. Matuk worked his way up the minors and debuted with Tampa in April of 2015, and he spent the next 2 years bouncing between Tampa Bay and AAA, getting playing time as a depth outfielder. In his 106 games with the Rays, Matuk hit 12 home runs, 30 RBI, and slashed 231, 275, 410 for an 87 OPS+ and .1 WAR. After the 2016 season, he was traded to the Tigers for a player to be named later, which ended up being pitcher Drew Smith. Smith was still in the minors. He didn't debut with the Rays, and that July, he was traded to the Mets for Lucas Duda. Duda dropped off hard from his Mets tenure. In 52 games with the Rays, he still showed some power with 13 home runs and 27 RBI, but his batting average dropped to 175 and his OPS+ to 95. He put up .1 WAR and then left as a free agent after the season. Pick 38 was shortstop Brandon Martin. He spent a few years in the Rays system, he never reached the majors, and he was released in 2015. Now back to Jesse Chavez on the Braves, he started 2010 rough. In 28 appearances, he had a 67 ERA+ and a 1.4 whip. As the Braves made a playoff push, approaching the 2010 deadline, they traded Chavez. In July of 2010, Chavez was traded, alongside outfielder Gregor Blanco and pitching prospect Tim Collins, to the Royals for outfielder Rick Ankiel and relief pitcher Kyle Farnsworth, 2 upcoming free agents. Ankiel became the Braves starter in center field for the rest of the season, and he was not that good. Through 47 games, he slashed 210, 324, 328 for a 78 OPS+ and .2 WAR, and then he left as a free agent. And Farnsworth joined the Braves bullpen, and he also wasn't very good. In 23 appearances, he pitched to a 74 ERA+ and minus .2 WAR, and then he also left as a free agent. Gregor Blanco and Tim Collins both spent some time with the Major League team for the Royals. They combined for 3 WAR across parts of 4 seasons, and then they both left for nothing. Blanco was traded for a player to be named later who was never named, and Collins left as a free agent. But back to Jesse Chavez, he finished out the year in the Royals bullpen and then spent most of 2011 in the minors. In 27 appearances across the 2 seasons, he had a 2-3 record, a 61 ERA+, and a whip of almost 1.7. So after the season, he was placed on waivers and claimed by the Blue Jays. Now we fast forward to August of 2012. Chavez had spent most of 2012 in AAA, with a couple of stints with the Blue Jays, and in August he was traded to Oakland for cash. And Chavez finally stopped moving around so often, and he had some of his best years in Oakland. 2013 was the first time he was above replacement level in his career, and he stayed there through 2014 and 2015. In both of those seasons, he spent large parts of the season in the A's rotation, Through 47 starts and 54 relief appearances with Oakland, he had a 17-27 record, a 96 ERA+, and 2.5 WAR. After the 2015 season, with the A's nowhere near contention and Chavez a year from free agency, they traded him. In November of 2015, Chavez was sent back to the Blue Jays for relief pitcher Liam Hendriks. Hendriks was a bit of a project. He'd bounced around a few teams over his first 5 years in the majors, and his first solid season was his 2015 with the Blue Jays. His first few years in Oakland weren't all that great, but he broke out in 2019 as he became the A's primary closer. Between 2019 and 2020, Hendriks saved 39 games, pitched to an ERA plus of 2.39 and a whip of under .9, and 5.1 WAR. He made the All-Star game in 2019, and he got votes for Cy Young and MVP in 2020. He then left the A's as a free agent. And Chavez was nothing special back in Toronto. He returned to the bullpen, and he had a 94 ERA plus and minus .1 WAR in 39 appearances. And at the deadline, while the Blue Jays were on track for a wildcard spot, they traded Chavez again. In August of 2016, Chavez was traded to the Dodgers for pitcher Mike Bolsinger. Bolsinger finished the year in the minors, then bounced up and down throughout 2017. In 5 starts and 6 relief appearances for the Blue Jays, he had a 71 ERA+, a 1.8 whip, and minus .5 WAR. After the season, Bolsinger was DFA'd and became a free agent. Chavez finished out the season in the Dodgers bullpen. He made 23 relief appearances, and he was basically the same as he'd been in Toronto, an ERA plus of 97 and minus .1 WAR, and then he left in free agency after the season. Now we're going to jump almost 2 years forward. Chavez spent 2017 on a 1-year contract with the Angels and then signed another 1-year deal with his original team, the Texas Rangers, for the 2018 season. And he turned himself into a quality reliever at age 34 with a 1.36 ERA plus and 1.2 WAR in just 30 appearances. With the Rangers on their way to finishing last in the AL West, in July they traded Chavez to the Cubs for minor league pitcher Tyler Thomas. Thomas spent the next few years in the Rangers system, never made the majors, and was released in 2022. And Chavez continued to build on his great season in Chicago. He made 32 relief appearances with the Cubs. He put up a 3.63 ERA plus and 1.9 WAR. He put up a career-best whip under .8, and after the season he became a free agent again. Now we're going to jump forward another few years. Coming off his impressive 2018, Chavez signed a 2-year contract to return to the Texas Rangers, and he played that whole contract without being traded. He then signed with the Braves in 2021, and he played that contract out without being traded. And going into 2022, he signed a 1-year deal to go back to the Cubs. After 3 appearances in April, totaling 5 2/3 innings, the Cubs traded him back to the Braves with cash for pitcher Sean Newcomb. Newcomb bounced between the Cubs and AAA the rest of the season, and he wasn't good in the majors. In 17 appearances, he had a 1.8 whip, a 46 ERA plus, and minus 1.2 WAR. He was DFA'd in September and left as a free agent after the season. And Chavez jumped back into the Braves bullpen and he returned to form. Through 31 appearances, he had a 1.2 whip and 2.5 FIP. At the deadline, the Braves looked to make another splash, and Chavez was moved in his record-breaking 10th trade. In August of 2022, Chavez was paired with starting pitcher Tucker Davidson and sent to the Angels for closer Raisel Iglesias. Iglesias has been the Braves' closer since the trade. He's been very good since getting to Atlanta. Through 86 appearances, he has 34 saves, a 2.21 ERA+, a whip under 1.1, and 2.5 WAR, and he's under contract for 2 more years. Davidson was not very good with the Angels. He made 8 starts in 2022 and a handful of relief appearances in 2023, and wasn't good in either of those roles. And in August of 2023, he was sent to the Royals for cash. And Chavez also didn't pitch well after getting to the Angels. He made 11 appearances, he had a 55 ERA plus and 1.7 whip. And after a month, he was put on waivers and claimed by none other than the Atlanta Braves. I do think it's important to note that this was a salary dump trade for the Angels. Iglesias was in the first year of a 4-year, $58 million contract, and Chavez and Davidson were both cheap. The Angels were okay getting basically nothing back, which they did. They really just didn't want to pay that contract they'd signed Iglesias to. And so, basically, giving him to the Braves ended up being okay for them. So I really don't have a who won the trade for this one because, well, it's 10 different trades. I will say that the teams that did the best acquiring him would either be the A's, who got him just for cash and he was good for them for over 3 years, and the Cubs, since he was so good for them in his limited time and they gave up a prospect who didn't pan out. The team that did the best trading him away, it's either the Rays, who got a year of an elite closer, or the Braves the last time, since they basically got another elite closer for free, and then got Chavez back. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a different sort of video than what I normally do. Up next, I'll be returning to trade trees with the Zach Greinke deal between the Royals and the Brewers.